So welcome to the show, Marc.
Happy to be here, Sarah.
I am so excited to have you here. I mean, I love to learn about tech solutions, especially when they're bringing cost savings and real operational efficiencies to logistics. Everybody knows I grew up in the industry, and so it's no secret that we can make improvements in a lot of key areas. And so it's really exciting for me to see brands that are bringing forward-thinking solutions alongside a real passion for logistics. So let's find out more. Let's dive right in. But before we
Let's
get
do
into
it.
the business and what you guys are doing, can you give us a brief history on how Transmetrics was founded? I mean, I love to hear about brand journeys, about the entrepreneurial and the collaborative spirits that often sit behind these kinds of businesses. So how and why did Transmetrics come about, and what's the journey that brought you to this point in 2021?
Well, thank you. Yeah, the idea of Transmetrics was drafted actually in 2020, 2012 during a transport conference. Now, at the time, the different founders were working as consultants for some of the largest companies in the cargo industry. They had different functions and job titles then. Some were in IT, some were in project management, and others were in more commercial roles.
Wow.
So really totally different aspects of the business covered there, which is something you hear quite often in successful business stories. Now, something that really struck them was that in most of these companies they were working for as a consultant, there was this explicit issue of inefficient capacity utilization, with no one really out there willing to face that challenge.
Right.
So that's the proper usage of your trucks, your ships, or whatever. So they did have a solution in mind, but of course you need to test it in a real world. So they iterated a concept version, and they actually showed that during one of their own consultancy projects, and the client accepted to be a test base for this kind of first iteration, and it was a success.
Nice.
That's really interesting, I think. And then what's really important is there are so many variables to take into account when you're talking about logistics. So this isn't your you run of the mill chatbot or whatever that has a couple of pre-programmed questions, and once you hit the maximum of replies, it just stops. But a fully functional system that registers and calculates a lot of data. So that goes to show that these guys were really covering all their bases, so to speak. And since then, we've grown from that first test pilot into a global company with multiple offices around the globe. We went from a couple of co-founders to around 40 people. And one thing I'm really happy with is that it's still the whole team is comprised of different people with different skill sets. So you have a team that really understands the business side of logistics, another who really understands the maintenance and the planning part of it. So that's really what sets us apart, I think, and what gives us our depth of knowledge, so to speak.
Amazing. Amazing. And I think you recently just launched in North America. Is that right?
Yes, well, a soft launch though. You don't really, launch in North America as a scale up, but we are, and we're also actually myself. I'm moving to Dubai to launch our solution in the Middle East as well. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, really cool stuff. We have some projects in Asia I can't tell you anything about that right now. Um, and mostly Europe for now. And then also Latin America is a growing market for us. So it's really a global market.
That is so exciting. And it sounds like you're scaling up in all the right areas. So
Yes.
before we dive even deeper, let's talk about what you do. So give us an overview. What does Transmetrics do, and how does it help its customers?
Yeah. Um, okay. So I'll start difficult and then I'll boil it down into simpler terms. Transmetrics optimizes logistics planning and asset management by leveraging the power of predictive analytics and artificial intelligence. Now,
Amazing.
that still sounds incredibly difficult. So, what I like as an analogy of sorts is the just-in-time processes. I think Toyota started that in the 1930s or something, but and nowadays it's rebranded everywhere as lean. But I like just in time better because in logistics it's such a physical world, where time
Yes.
is literally of the essence. So in a nutshell, we just bring just in time processes to the logistical world with the help of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Um, that has three key impact areas: saving costs, so saving on, for example, maintenance cost, but also by optimizing your planning and optimizing your infrastructure, warehouse, your fleet capacity. A lot of variables are taken into account. Uh, that leads to immense, for some clients, multi-million dollar cost savings. So that's really impressive. The second part is innovation. We use a slew of technologies, really. I'm not going to use a lot of buzzwords here, but I think the key one is IoT in logistics right now.
Yep.
And that's one of the things we use. By accurately forecasting demand, maintenance slots, a lot of stuff really. You can find untapped resources and opportunities also in for example usage patterns. And then I think finally what's really important to mention here is that we want to kind of reshape and also revitalize the industry. That sounds like a bold claim, but I really believe that by making it a nicer place to work and also a more sustainable kind of industry, we can do a lot to change the industry for good.
I love that because this industry is amazing. We've got so many incredible people. It's fascinating. Things
Yeah.
are changing on a day to day basis. And I love the fact that, you and the Transmetrics team has decided to put that as part of your ethos. So it's not a huge claim. It's the right claim because
Thank you.
I think that's how we need to move forward. So break this down for us, right? Because I know you just talked a little bit about, what exactly you do, but in my research, it shows that your platform is split into analyze, forecast, and optimize. So can you give us a bit of detail on each of those areas and how they come together to create like this really smart and robust all-in-one platform?
Sure, sure. We split them up into three parts because I guess, easier to understand. And then each one can vary in length depending on the digital operations currently in place already, and also the objective of the client, which can vary a lot. But generally, we go through each of the three phases actually with all of our clients, regardless of their use case or industry. So we start indeed with the analyze phase,
Mhm.
which is something we developed in-house. It's a unique method to improve the data quality via the backend, so that's important to note. So we actually extract the data from the system that our clients use, and then we have an AI-driven data quality framework, which transforms that data. So it gives reliable results that are relatively low cost, and it's only needed once. So that's the good news. It's not a continuous kind
Nice.
of. Sorry.
I said nice. I think that that's a good
Yeah.
feature.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Going back and forth is really troublesome, and it puts a lot of strain on the IT departments as well. So it's really a one-time effort there. Um, and it's also continuously improved on a daily basis because because it uses AI and machine learning. It learns the business, so to speak. It really is adaptive to your own kind of bubble. So essentially, what this does is it cleanses and transforms the data on the fly without in any way altering or affecting existing processes. So we're not going to like kind of take over in a bad AI kind of vibe like Terminator or whatever, and it can run in parallel to the established operation. So we're coming in, or we're plugging in, and then we're also our clients can run their business as they go, but we first plug in and learn what they're doing basically. So we're integrated in, for example, TMS, RP, or asset management software, and that's really the first phase. The second phase is that we start to forecast, and we incorporate forecasting into that model, and then instead of learning, it also generates ideas, possible improvements, that sort of stuff. It generates daily rolling predictions of, for example, upcoming shipment volumes, for origin destination, and the forecasting window can actually vary from 1 day to several weeks, depending on the needs again of the client, and the resources that they have. So it's this forecast is based on the cleansed historical data, which we extracted in the first phase, and then we also are able to add to that external factors such as seasonality, weather, gas prices, you name it, really. Even public holidays is a thing nowadays with e-commerce. So
Yes.
you need to
Yep.
take that into account as well.
Hmm.
But that's really one of the most basic ones. You can even tie it to currencies. It's really up to you. And then in the last phase, that algorithm takes it a step further, and it starts to calculate the most optimal planning to use the logistical resources in place, based on factors such as the data, the service levels that are required, because you have a lot of times now you have 24 hours delivery, or
Yep.
even in container shipping lines, there's these huge advancements in requirements in service levels. But then on the other hand, there's also the restraints. There's not everything is possible, and you don't want to have a full container ship going with just one crate on it.
Right.
Um, yeah. So we see what's possible, what's the best route of action, but we also take into account the very personal kind of things. So the platform can handle any type of asset, really. So you can go as crazy as trucks, vans, pallets, forklifts, everything. Um, um, and as a result, these companies get an optimized dynamic plan that they can use in their day-to-day operations and long-term strategic decision making, because you can also identify trends much sooner than what it used to be.
And that's huge. I mean, one of the things that I talk about a lot is that we need to be proactive rather than reactive. So many times in logistics and traditionally, we've
Yeah,
always been reactive. But
yeah,
now there's really no excuse to be reactive anymore. We have so much data and we have tools like Transmetrics at our fingertips that we
yeah.
can't really, use that as an excuse. And we need to
No, exactly.
definitely need to be proactive, right?
Yeah, if you get a report saying, hey, you might want to decrease a couple of ships there because for months on end you've had too much ships or trucks or whatever at that destination. It's kind of wasteful. There's
Yes.
really no excuse anymore. So yeah,
Absolutely no
reposition.
excuse. That's so true. So, how does your platform work? You talked about it being like a plug and play, right? But a
Yeah.
lot of times when, customers or people in the audience are listening, they want to know about infrastructure. They want to know integration. They want to know about onboarding, because these are all big considerations for businesses when they're looking at like a new tech solution like
Hmm.
Transmetrics. So, what does the interface look and feel like for a customer, and how does the platform integrate with existing customer systems? And how long does it take to implement? What's that process?
Yeah, yeah. It's a thing we hear a lot of the time, and most of the time that's because of the normal route to go is go to a normal IT solution provider and give them, well, it varies, but at least $1 million, I think, and then they start to work for you and code it by hand.
Right.
Well, and then we wanted we're focused only on logistics. So that's the first kind of thing that really comes to mind, is that we're only there for logistics and we're not doing anything else. So that's a big consideration for us as well, and then for businesses that we really understand that what we're talking about, instead of now doing a couple of brainstorms what we're actually talking about. And in terms of the interface, I think we wanted the platform to feel comfortable for planners, because a lot of people are still working in Microsoft Excel or like yeah, very old software.
Yes.
So it's too much to transform that into a kind of haptic interface, or it's you got to take it slow. Um, so what we did was create a very functional approach to the platform, with limited visual fireworks. And I'm not going to name anyone here, but there are packages out there that give you a headache rather than a solution. um, so what we do is we do incorporate some smart stuff, of course. So like color coding of assets that require your immediate attention, or ports that are congested. And we also have an executive summary in the form of like dashboards and action lists and that sort of things. Um, because most of the time, you want to have everything um, in in there somewhere, but you don't need everything all the time, right?
Right.
So what we did was we prioritize what requires attention, and then you can, most of the time, you can dig deeper. You begin very broadly, very high level, and then you can dig in into more detail as you go, or as you need some information. And then, of course, for example, when we optimize things, we show the routes and we show the assets used and that sort of thing. But uh, you know, we don't go too deep right away. Only if there's any doubt on whether the solution can uh, or actually if a manual planner is able to define a better route or a better storage location, then they are able to do that. So there's no black box thing going on. You can actually dig in and see the things that the system thought of.
Absolutely. And so do you integrate with most systems, I would imagine.
Yes.
And then what
Yeah.
does the implementation process look like? Like is it long? What are
Yeah.
people
Well,
looking at?
it really depends on the foundation that our client have.
Okay.
And
That's
most
fair.
of the time, we use, for example, we want as much data as we can, of course, because that really helps train the system quickly and efficiently. So, for example, let's say we do a one-time data extraction of the TMS for around 2 years. We could do one, but 2 years is better. And then we do a 10-day customer staff time where we really dig in. And then we need also some one-on-one time with the IT team of the client to extract the data and get to know their systems a bit more, because everyone does a different job and uses their system in different ways.
Mhm.
um, then I think one of we need a, most of the time. What it again, it depends on the complexity of what you're already doing. But most of the time, within 2 or 3 months, we'll be able to actually show some results,
Awesome.
which is very nice. And then, most importantly, I think what we do, and that sets us apart from a lot of other people doing this, or generic AI software. Let's put it like that. Is that we also include also every time workshops. So about the business benefits that it can bring you, and about the process changes due to the implementation of the system. Because implementing software is one thing, but then training your people to actually use it um, and be effective with it is arguably a more important part, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's huge because you also want to make sure that your customers are using everything that's at their fingertips. A lot of time I've talked to, organizations where they implement a technology solution, but they
Hmm.
don't realize everything that it can do for them. And so you want to make sure during that implementation that they know what is available at their fingertips. But you mentioned
Yeah.
data. So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about that data, because it's one of the biggest trends right now. Businesses are coming to appreciate good data more and more as like the backbone of good business, especially in light of the pandemic with things like toilet paper shortages, where better data and predictive analysis could have potentially
Yeah.
helped in those
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
scenarios, right?
Some
So
other things could have helped too, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and data is it's the new oil, right? So talk to us about harnessing the power of data in logistics, how your platform, cleanses and enriches that data, because sometimes the data that your customers have is good and some of it's bad. Like, what if a new customer doesn't have great data? What do you do?
Mhm. Well, for anyone interested, we've actually written a case study on this subject. They can access it on our website to get the whole academic kind of version of what what I'm going to tell you.
Awesome.
But yeah, it varies greatly, to be honest, between clients and companies and regions. There are also just geo things going on. For example, what we see in what I see in Middle East, that everybody's much more advanced because they hopped on the bandwagon shorter time ago. So in Europe, there's most of the time there's this tangle of create of software packages, and even between the same companies in different countries. So sometimes we get confronted by a system that's either from the Stone Ages, or that's really so intertwined that it's hard to untangle.
Mhm.
And then we have a lot of grumbling and crying from our data engineering and analytics team. But other times it also can be quite innocent. We actually have for example, we have a German client that used wine and wine in their system. So wine is the German word for wine, but it's spelled differently.
Okay.
So the pronunciation is actually the same, but the word is spelled differently. And then nobody picked that up until we analyzed the data and saw that a
Right.
certain region or a certain country was, inputting it differently. And then also because the name wasn't wine, the German one wasn't registering. They were actually putting in too much space in each truck because they couldn't, figure out what it was. So it's in my opinion, it's really all about doing the right stuff at the right time. Some
Yes.
people, most of the time, we can figure it out. I mean, it's just a matter of uh, coupling things, getting the system to incorporate it, and then once we help the system out manually if it needs to. But most of the time, the system can figure it out on itself, and then once it starts rolling, it also starts learning, and that's the basis of it. But yeah, data is really only valuable. You can collect all the data in the world, but data is only valuable in the right hands, I think,
Yeah.
and with the right intentions. Um,
And
so
use the right
yeah,
way, right? I mean, if one of your organizations, offices is spelling it WHINE and you're
yeah,
spelling it WINE and somebody else
yeah,
is spelling it WYNE, the
yeah,
amount of lines and data, like it's just
exactly.
it's just crazy. We all need to be on the same page with this so that we can
Yeah,
definitely make
yeah,
sure to optimize our processes, because you're right.
exactly.
I mean, one letter can make all
All the
the
difference,
difference.
all the difference in the world. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, when I was doing the research on Transmetrics and for this particular interview,
yeah,
I realized that, you have an approach to combining people and AI, and
yeah,
sometimes that can be a sticking point for employees, right? But you have a
yeah.
very positive ethos, which you call augmented intelligence, the best of both worlds, through which
Yes.
you can empower logistics planners instead of replacing them, which is what everybody's afraid of. And that is amazing. So talk us through what that means, like the balance between person and machine and the benefits that both sides bring to the table.
Yeah, this is something we're actually very passionate about. I think that we hear it a lot of the time, of course. People are afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. Everybody has seen these things on, I don't know, Forbes or LinkedIn, top 10 industries getting wiped out by
Right.
artificial intelligence. And
Yep.
that scares people.
Hmm.
As a creative person by heart, I think that also scares me because I just saw today that there's this AI tool that can write copy, so that can write marketing or sales text, which is,
Right.
it's scary.
Yep.
And I get that. I get where that fear is coming from. Um, we also believe that in any industry that cares for people or scarce goods or anything that's potentially dangerous, there should always be a human in the loop. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal if the AI helps you, yeah, get your order faster or answers your question, because it's just the same work but done more efficiently. But in any of those three areas, we think that there should be someone involved, you know, making not only controlling or checking the things that the machine did, but also having a kind of empathetic view to it. And so, since logistics can actually be all three of those areas, I think it's a must-have to include people in that loop. So we use the AI for the automated stuff, the repetitive, boring stuff. Really, it can do a lot of data analytics and a lot of predictions in a fraction of the time it would cost someone hunkering over Excel and doing the
Right.
calculations. It's also great for example, fallback decisions. If you need a very quick, safe kind of decision on what to do. For example, look at the Evergreen drama in the Suez Canal.
Hmm.
You can just push the button and it will kind of, with the resources and the constraints you put in, you can make up something in a matter of minutes instead of, people having long meetings, debates about what to do, and then yeah, by that time, most of the time it's too late. But then again, you need the human expert for the customer knowledge, the market knowledge, the plain experience in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's they are vital for the predictions in case of unreliable data or yeah, things going absolutely sideways. Then you do need a human in the loop.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you are talking about this and that you're making it known and really working with your customers to make sure that, the people in our industry, because that's what really makes us work is the people in
Yeah.
our industry. So let's switch gears and talk about your ideal customer. I mean, you work with some big clients like DHL, DPD. Are you better suited to larger brands or can you help SMEs as well? And what about location? Does it
hmm
matter where they are?
Yeah. It does in a way, but we offer such a broad lineup of products and services. We can really cater to a very big audience. Then again, it really depends on what kind of solution you're looking for. In general, I could say that our client is, let's say, a logistical customer with a yeah, that's of course, it's a logistics customer with a complex planning puzzle.
Okay.
Most of the time, they have multiple locations, different types of equipment, and they struggle to plan operations. And most of the time, they have more and more data, and they don't know what to do with it,
Mhm.
or they lack the skills to do anything with it. And then, in terms of revenue, we are currently most of the time servicing companies that are doing 50 million in gross revenue yearly or more. Um, but we can do something for smaller companies as well. And as you go to specific products as well, you could add some variables to that list. For example, an ocean shipping line by default is a big customer. Yeah, well, there could be, and not that I know of, but with someone operating just a half a ship or something. But I think, for example, with ocean shipping lines, we need 5,000 TUEs at least before it does really make sense, before it really makes
Right.
an impact.
Okay.
With that being said, we are exploring and developing multiple solutions for SMEs right now.
Yay. Good.
Yes, yes, yes. For example, in maintenance and the positioning of assets, we're really looking for smaller companies as well. I think that's important for anyone who wants to be actually in business in the future, is to have like a really solid plan on and an automated plan on where to put your stuff and when to get it in for repairs or maintenance. Um, so yeah, if any SME out there is thinking, yes, I need that, they're happy. I'm happy to have a talk with them. So reach out to me.
Awesome. Yeah, just pick up the phone or
Yeah,
go and visit your website. So, on to one of my favorite questions, the case study. I mean, you've mentioned a few case studies already, and we
yeah,
know that your platform can bring cost savings, time savings. And so, bring that to life. Talk us through a real life example of how you've worked with a brand and brought value. What was the challenge that they came to you with? What was the solution that you provided? And what was the impact of that solution?
yeah. Okay, that's a nice one. We helped Now Dutch, which is a major shipping company. They are from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, where I was. Also from the Netherlands, but from Amsterdam.
Nice.
So that's close to my heart. And they are specializing in container and bulk shipping between West Africa and the rest of the world. This is a pretty senior company. They have 30 years of experience. They've built a large network of offices and agents supporting companies throughout the whole world. And what they had is that the containers that they are handling, that's a major cost plus for them. So I think there was a BCG study that said that repositioning empty containers for the whole industry is costing it 13 to 17 billion a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Huge
that's crazy.
numbers.
That's crazy. Yeah, and then including the storage, the maintenance, everything together. That's I think that's more than 12% for now Dutch. And then translating that into a multi-million company, that starts to stack up.
Yeah.
And they are not the only ones, of course, because it's an industry-wide problem. There's what I really find interesting is that we are ordering more, as a society. So we're actually, because of the pandemic as well, it boomed. It's great, but that also, and then there's also the higher service levels that I mentioned before. And so you get this congestion of ports, of hubs, of cities, and that's most of the time that's a matter of infrastructure. That's a multi-year or even decade plan that's supposed to be handled by countries, municipalities, or umbrella organizations.
Yeah.
So they can't really help these companies in the short term. So what we can solve as Transmetrics is that we can solve the matching of the supply and demand of those assets, of those containers, and make sure that our clients have the right material at the right time. So that's what we did. We built it's actually one of our more off-the-shelf solutions, so to speak. Um, um, so we developed a complete AI-driven data model, which automatically cleanses and enriches the data they have coming in through the TMS. And then the data of that model could be used for first of all reporting, seeing what's going on in my organization. Most of the time the TMS doesn't provide that level of like granular detail that they
Right.
need.
Yeah.
And then they start to use it for after that initial phase. You can use it for the planning. You can in the beginning, I think it was more manual work. So the planners use our system as a kind of a cheat sheet on what to do, and finally the input for an optimization model that takes a little time. It has to learn people need to start to trust it, as we already discussed. But I think that's a major point as well. Trusting that system to do the right thing,
Yes.
because if you've been doing planning in Excel for 20 years, it's kind of I can feel the tension there of
Yeah.
saying, okay, take the wheel and let's see where we go. Uh, but in the end, the model was predicting the releases and returns of containers for Nile Dutch's entire network for the next 12 years. Sorry, 12 weeks. That's a very long time. 12 weeks on a very granular level that the planners started to trust. So each day you get a kind of a summary of the port, the ship, the type of container, and where it needed to go to be most efficient.
Amazing.
And yeah, I can talk a little bit about the key results there. I think we had a more than 10% reduction in the total fleet that was necessary,
Wow.
which is, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Um, I think there was a 30% reduction in the storage costs, because they were just, yeah, that's obviously a direct outcome of that first point. But if you use your stuff more efficiently, you can save storage costs, but because they're actually more in transit than they are stored in some warehouse. Um, and then that eventually led to, I think, around a 10% cost reduction. So that's amazing.
Amazing. Those are amazing numbers.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
and well done. And I'm so glad that you shared that story with us. And so I could talk to you for hours about this. I mean, logistics is in my blood, but we've come to the last question. So why don't you tell us what's next? What's next for Transmetrics?
That's a good question, actually. Well, we are exclusively bound to logistics. So we are and always will be fully dedicated to logistics and the whole transportation industry.
Hmm.
But within that space, there are a ton of use cases which we want to explore, and processes that we want to enhance. Um, and there's so much cool stuff going on in this industry. I mean, I think it to me personally, I really think it's been like jolted alive by uh,
Yep.
by a lot of recent developments, and it's becoming it was kind of this boring same old industry, and now it's completely it's off the rails, which is is a nice saying, I guess. For example, inner city logistics is something that we really want to look at. I think there's a lot of potential there. And then also, for example, with new EU regulations and the goal to reduce carbon emissions even more, I think there's a role to be played by us there as well. Making what we currently have more efficient is really a nice first step to helping our planet a little bit more,
Yep.
while simultaneously looking to the future, of course. But that takes time. It takes time to develop these kind of new technologies. So that's one of the things we really want to see. And then there's, in terms of, yeah, I mean, our software can be used for a lot of things. Could even be used for the repositioning of shared vehicles in cities.
Right.
Um, yeah, to distribute that demand even better, and have people uh, travel from A to B faster. I mean, the opportunities are really limitless, but I see a bright future.
Awesome, awesome. And you're going to be including SMEs in that even more as you
Yes,
move forward, which I am very excited about.
definitely,
So, as I
definitely.
said, I'm sad that this interview has come to an end because what your team is doing over at Transmetrics is really exciting. And I just know we have so much more to talk about.
Thank you.
Seeing how you've weaved AI and data and tech together with people and a passion for doing better business, it's really inspiring. And it's brands like Transmetrics with that kind of approach to business that are genuinely going to drive the change that we need in this industry. So go visit them at transmetrics.ai. And a big thanks to Marc for joining us today and to Transmetrics for making this episode happen.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Happy to be here, and hope to see you soon.